everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex, and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today, as you saw last week, we've moved on to a new artist, so today is Jack Kirby Monday, and I'm joined today by a very special guest over here. We got Nick.
Hey guys.
Say hi, Nick.
What's up?
I thought you were going to say hi, Nick. All right, so Nick is, as much as he can, going to be jumping in with us when we do the Jack Kirby reviews from now on. So as much as his schedule will allow, he'll be jumping in. We're going to be shooting a few videos here, so Nick will be joining me for at least the next 3-4 videos, something like that. So last review was Land Strong, The Shield, and today we're moving on to Fantastic Four and starting with Jack Kirby in the 60s at Marvel. Don't like this cover, so not that it's bad or anything, but I hate to see another artist on top of a Jack Kirby collection. But what do you think?
Terrible.
So let's look at some actual Jack Kirby artwork. So let's at least look at the credits here real quick. The Fantastic Four number 1 to 10. Writer Stan Lee, that's debatable. Penciler Jack Kirby. Inkers George Klein, Saul Brodsky, Joe Sinnott, Dick Ayers, all the old school guys. Their names are very old school as well. Letterers Art Simek, John Duffy, Terry Zenix. Editor, of course, Stan Lee.
Of course.
Sure does a lot, that Stan. So today we're going to be looking at issue number 1. Let's start over here with the cover. Nick, thoughts?
That's iconic.
For sure, eh?
There's no other cover that's matched that. You can fight me all you want.
Listen, this is a super classic composition. Everyone knows this one. It's been around, obviously, since this is like 1961. This is, I'm not quite sure. November 1961. This is published. The start of the Marvel Universe. Pretty much right here on the cover. Still kind of resembling more the Atlas kind of monster comics they were doing up to this point, but slowly but surely morphing into a superhero comic, as we'll see throughout these first few Fantastic Four issues. And you've probably seen tons of homages of this cover, right? Actually, on my Big Baby series, I have a buddy who did an alternate cover. Victor Millet is his name. Look him up on Instagram. I think you can find him. Shout out to everybody. All right. First thing I'm gonna say, looking at this first page, is like they're still kind of like generic or off model as to what I would kind of imagine.
I think the only one who's kind of resembled her appearance is Sue Storm.
Yeah, she's like the generic blonde.
I mean, not even black hair with the white yet.
Yeah, even the hairline's a little different. There's something.
It's like receding rather than combed backwards.
That's right. Yeah, then slicked back. He seems older too, maybe, even though he doesn't have the white stripes. I guess Ben Grimm. No, I've seen Ben Grimm in later issues when the thing turns back into Ben Grimm.
Yeah, that's not Ben Grimm.
No, it's an odd looking face.
This is basically like prior to Fantastic Four, he was at DC doing Challengers of the Unknown. And that was kind of the gestating period that became. He took that concept, brought it over here.
Well, that's what's been said about this is you know, Jack Kirby already had all these concepts and he brought them to Marvel, and then, you know, Stan Lee slapped his name on a lot of it. So yeah, definitely a very similar concept to the Challengers of the Unknown, kind of a sci-fi 50s kind of feel that, you know,
Group of four.
Yeah, and it's, you know, how would I put it? Inspired by the 50s, but moving into the 60s and the new era and the new frontier and that whole vibe right before Kennedy getting assassinated.
FF1 is not a superhero book, it's a monster book.
Yeah, it's like an Atlas comic, right? Yeah. All right, so I don't know what else to say here on this first page. I mean, the Fantastic Four appearing in the cloud there. Is the crowd meant to actually be seeing that in the cloud, or are they just seeing a big cloud? I don't know. Seems odd storytelling wise, but
well, I mean, comic wise, they're pointing the finger up. Look.
So it's just it's more of a diagram kind of image, I guess. Super menacing, Mr. Fantastic. Like, that's straight out of like a mafia book or something that Kirby's done before. Yeah. Anyways, I guess people have talked about this, how the Fantastic, again, because it's kind of like a monster comic, the Fantastic Four are meant to be scary somewhat, right? And that's kind of the vibe that we're getting here.
100%. It doesn't even feel Fantastic Four yet until way later.
Yeah, this, again, you're talking about gestating. That's a great word. That's what's going on here. I mean, a lot of the basics are there, right? Their powers and stuff, but yeah, the actual vibe of it is not yet sci-fi, really.
Or superhero, for that matter.
Yeah. Good side character here. I don't know why I like checkered shirts. Probably because they're fun to draw. Some interesting coloring, I gotta say, with the red here, like monochrome kind of foreground and stuff. Interesting choices. This is a nice addition. Paper's glossy, it's not newsprint.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, but the colors are pretty good. I mean, it's simple, flat colors as it was at the time, but I feel like the print quality is good, right? We talked about this earlier. We're not getting any kind of offset colors or anything from some of the older shitty reprints.
No, some of the masterworks are well done in comparison to prior attempts.
I love this panel here. That's kind of a classic. Yeah, and again, that's good examples of more of the horror vibe that we're getting off this comic.
I mean, you could also see early Ben Grimm, no eyebrow.
Yeah.
Doesn't have that rectangular eyebrow that he's known to have later on.
It's like
he looks very much like a turd rather than a rock.
Yeah, he does look like a turd, actually.
Yeah.
Which is fine. He looks more like
Clayface.
Earth, or
Clayface from Batman.
Yeah, chunky Earth. What was I gonna say? Yeah, it seems like he's kind of got in some of the shapes we're gonna get later on with the thing.
He doesn't have those pentagonal.
Well, he's gonna go kind of rounder and softer for a bit, and then
refined.
He's gonna get back to this kind of shape, and then it's gonna get more angular and stuff, and then he kind of figures it out. And a lot of people have said it's because of the way later on when Joe Sinnott becomes the inker, how he inked the thing is what basically made Jack Kirby draw him differently as well. That's a great shot there. I love that.
All right.
Drop silhouette there, very menacing. Before Jack Kirby was drawing like insane, like
hot rods,
weird, fantastic cars and stuff, just regular cars. That's the thing that, like, the further back I go with Kirby and I look at his art with older stuff, like, it's still like, this is more, it's not too out there. It's kind of classic illustration, He
was still confined. He hasn't unleashed yet.
Well, that's it. Yeah, he's still kind of drawing like everyone else to a certain extent. Not that it's bad or anything, but it's
the house style didn't happen yet.
Yeah, and he's not yet pushing too well. I know he did it in Lance Strong, actually. He did some cool like force perspectives and stuff. So I'm sure there's some examples of it here, but it feels like the storytelling is a little more laid back.
Well, don't forget, when he was doing this one, they were basically going out of business at the time, and maybe that's why they made this book and they put it out there to see what the reactions would be like.
Yeah, no one knew, eh? Like, some of it's still kind of goofy. Stuff like this makes me laugh. There's an interesting article. I think it's from Tomorrow Publishing or something, there's a link to it from on the site from Tomorrow Publishing. Anyone who's watching doesn't know what Tomorrow Publishing is kind of like the company that still keeps Jack Kirby's stuff alive and does the Kirby Collector and stuff. Yes. And this guy does a really exhaustive kind of go over of this first issue, and he says that a lot of dialogue was changed. Obviously, if you know a little bit about the history of Marvel and Stan Lee coming in and doing the dialogue over stories that artists have done, there's definitely a case for it here. And he kind of goes through it. It's very exhaustive. Things are moved around, pages and panels and stuff are moved around. We'll see mostly in the secondary story when we get to it, and I'll talk about that when we get there.
See, the read already starts to look different than from that initial page.
Yeah, already, eh?
Yeah.
Very interesting. And all of a sudden the colorist leaves the temples white because he's doing it here, but not here. So it's not consistent, right? That's another classic panel that we all know, right? Part of the origin. The space race back then. All this whole origin is tied into that, right? And these are what do they call gamma rays? No, that's the Hulk. Cosmic rays.
Yeah, I think those were cosmic rays.
Yeah. Yeah, so the guy who wrote this thing about, what Jack Kirby did and what Stan Lee did on this, he argues that, for example, Stan Lee doesn't know much about science, but Jack Kirby was like a fervent reader of Scientific American and all these kind of National Geographic magazines and stuff. So, sometimes Stan Lee makes mistakes in the descriptions of things. So, he called them cosmic rays, but, apparently Jack Kirby's intention was some sort of radioactive thing, or like talking about the Van Allen radiation belt. Like, he actually knew about it. There's an example here too, back here. Is it with this missile? If I could find the right Yeah, so there's something about this missile not being like compared to what is drawn, what's described is not accurate. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself there. You guys go check it out online. Tomorrow Publishing. All right, so what's this? All the Fantastic Four using their powers for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, when I look at these first issues of the Fantastic Four, it's just very kind of, even though I know it, like back in the day, people were kind of, impressed by it, and it was very different from the DC stuff. It's a little laid back, I gotta say.
I mean, it's a pretty iconic panel too.
Yeah, Shioli's redone that one.
Yeah,
right? This is the cover.
grand design.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just something a little underwhelming about this first issue. No offense, I still think Jack Kirby's awesome, but
if you actually sit down and read it, it's a little boring.
Yeah.
In comparison to today's more faster paced comics.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think in any way they were thinking they were going to like, oh, we're going to establish this whole universe that's going to, it was just another story they were putting out. And, if anything kind of caught fire, I guess they continued with it. And that's eventually what they did with this. So the secondary story here, yeah, I'll go through it a little bit faster. Because I want to get to a section where some of the art's been reworked. Again, I'm referencing this guy online who's done a whole case study on it. Go check it out. But there's the whole argument that's been around for years about who did the most. Stan Lee, Jack Kirby. Did Stan Lee actually write these stories? Did Jack Kirby draw them all, and Stan Lee just changed the dialogue, right? So anyone out there who's interested in that stuff, there's tons of material you can find on the internet about it. So I'm not going to make up your mind for you, but I am pretty much of the school that, Jack Kirby did all the writing and stuff before Stan Lee and after. So, it seems kind of odd that all of a sudden, all the great ideas would come from Stan Lee in this kind of 9-year period where Jack Kirby's working for Marvel. It's odd. Stan Lee hasn't done much before or after, so. All right.
It's funny that the monster on the cover only appears partway through the story.
Well, that's the thing. That's another argument about this guy. He's saying that this story might have actually been first in
and then it's the origin story.
Yeah, and that these characters in this story, he says, maybe originally didn't actually have powers. Right? This is one of his arguments, that if you go through the storytelling and stuff, there's panels that are added in at a certain point, or things get shuffled around. But if you look throughout, pretty much, other than with the Thing here, he thinks that the Thing was dropped in later. It's a pretty interesting. The guy has all these arguments and stuff. Again, I don't have it in front of me, so I love these when they just hit him with like a reddish purple all of a sudden. Like, it takes balls to do that. And I mean balls. Back then they just didn't care. They were doing it quickly, right? But it definitely created a style. Right? Like, who thinks of doing that? But it looks cool to me, right? It implies, danger, obviously.
They're creating the language without knowing it.
Well, that's it. Yeah, exactly. The pop art kind of vibe, right? Then like fine artists copied it and copied actual panels from comics and painted them and then got paid millions of dollars. Yeah. Love this open panel here. I always like open panels. You use the horizon, this little triangle shape. Everything else is open. Just, the cat's going to try and get in. That happens. I don't think the camera picks up the noise, but yeah, that's my cat trying to get into the room. Is this like Godzilla was out by then?
Yeah,
right.
I keep thinking, is that Fin Fang Foom?
Don't think so, because he's got 3 heads. So like it's like the Hydra, I guess. Kind of. I guess is where the inspiration comes from. But there's a kaiju vibe. Like I wonder if like
it's a monster story.
Yeah, I mean big monsters.
A monster isle.
Do you think a lot of the kaijus, like a lot of these 50s Atlas comics had huge, monsters? I guess it was in the movies and stuff. It was everywhere.
It was influenced by Godzilla, Ultraman.
And then vice versa, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, it's
some of these. That's a pretty goofy face for a monster.
Is that Kirby?
Well, the inking maybe doesn't help. And yeah, the fact that there's something weird about all of a sudden Reed having a hat here like that. Oh man, I wish I had more details of it. It's really worth checking out. Yeah. Apparently this was redrawn, like the background.
This is nice though.
Well, that's a classic, and someone actually like I think, repainted this and created it as fine art at some point. I forget the artist's name who does that a lot, but yeah. Yeah, every once in a while you get kind of just a really kind of, I don't know, aesthetically pleasing kind of panel like that. Because then, other panels you get something that looks kind of goofy.
Looks like Challenges of the Unknown.
It just seems, yeah, very generic kind of, compared to what the Fantastic Four will become. So there's like a second part to this Mole Man story. So this whole 3 chapters.
Mm-hmm.
I like this creature here. That's a pretty cool Kirby monster. See, in some, like every once in a while in his early art, I see like stuff that he's going to use more of later in like the 70s, the way he does his textures and stuff. Even though someone else inked it, it's like he'll start using more of these, like with like Dark Side, right? Like the rocky texture and stuff. Again, like these bold colors, the fact that it's so blue. And these are the panels, like these suck to draw. They're fun. Like if you get them and you do them well, you're happy. But man, does this suck to draw? Like get all the perspective and the tiny details and stuff. But yeah, it's worth it. Very evocative. I like how you can't really see here in the foreground, but he's got like a bowl of fruits.
It's all purple.
The Mole Man just can get fruits underground. He's got like a wine carafe here. Carafe. This guy's living the life. Oh, and his origin as well. Yeah. He gets lost, what, in the Arctic or something?
It's very out there, this book.
Yeah. Well, some comics are always, there's always quite a bit of surrealism in most comics, so. There's some interesting kind of layouts that I haven't seen very often.
The color of the costumes, are always red and green?
Well, complementary colors. Yeah, that's like Christmas, right?
Yeah.
It's like they keep it simple. They just go orange and blue, right? What's the other one? Purple and yellow a lot. You'll see. Watchmen is basically a lot of that in secondary colors. Yeah. See, the thing here almost looks like what he will become way later on, right? But then he'll start getting kind of softer. That's a pretty cool shot. I like that. Yeah, so there's an argument. Oh, this is interesting too. Like this panel feels kind of weird.
It's empty.
Yeah, and also like the fact that all these characters are squeezed down here below this line. Like you would think maybe an arm or something just for overlap and creating layers and stuff. So again, that guy, man, I wish I had that. I should really stop just calling that guy. But I'll say again, look it up on the internet, guys, if you're interested. This guy just does pages and pages of case study of this comic. And one of the arguments is that this is pasted in here and things have been moved around.
The best thing to happen would be if his original art would ever turn up.
Yeah, for this issue, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anyone has original pages of this. It's probably long gone. It's
probably been destroyed.
Yeah.
Sadly,
unfortunately. And that's maybe why, like, some of the reprints have been. It's like you can never go back to the original. They might have stats of it, but not the actual original pages, right? When they want to do reprints and stuff. Some goofy Kirby monsters here. Not his best, but I mean, probably drew this panel in like 10 minutes. And there you go. So pretty uneventful, honestly. I mean, it's, again, like we talked about, it's basically like an Atlas comic, monster comic, just like was being published before. I guess the changes will come a bit later, and probably I think the first major change will be the costumes. Is that in issue 3 or 4 or something? I guess we'll find out with our next reviews. That is the end of that issue. Yeah, so Nick, you got anything you want to add before we shut her down?
No, like I said, it's a pretty boring first issue.
It's pretty typical of the kind of stuff that they put out at that point. Like, it doesn't, no one would have predicted right away that this would be kind of the hit that it became, and that would help the Marvel Universe grow with the other characters and stuff,
definitely
right?
The cover.
Yeah, the cover, I imagine, the cover's supposed to be eye-catching. There's definitely something, there's a reason it's iconic. We'll have one last look at it like we usually do. It's a bit harder with these trades, but I'll try to center it. There you go. Cover to Fantastic Four #1, November 1961. If you're watching the videos, guys, thank you so much. If you're subscribed, really appreciate you guys being loyal to the channel. Those of you who are not watching, excuse me, those of you who are watching but are not subscribed, please do so below. Takes only about a second and really helps the channel out, helps get us out there to like-minded people who are into the same stuff that we are, namely comic books. So everyone out there, have an awesome day. You want to say anything, Nick?
Take care.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at kingcomics.ca, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby. Like!